what I was sharing about my therapist is so that I could say it's easier for her to tell when pulse is coming up than it is for me to tell. Because my brain just goes like this.
She starts to see those signs
And
of dissociation.
Like, you're dreaming about this again.
Yeah.
You're dreaming about that again. You're stressed out about this thing that you haven't been stressed out about and being in control for the last... You haven't been stressed out about it for the last year, and now all of a sudden you're just like grasping for control.
Why now?
Oh yeah, it's June.
Right. June's tough. Yeah. It's really interesting. My partner and I have both been having like some weird dreams and like stress dreams. It's like, you're a teacher and you're out on vacation. Why? What's going on with all this stress? All right. Thank you for that. We have a conversation we need to have tonight at the dinner table. Yeah, I had my classic, I always have the same stress dream.
Me too.
It's always the same, and it's not related to pulse.
Oh,
but it comes up.
My attention's peaked.
Yeah. What about the dream?
Yeah. Of course it is. The dream stuff. Yeah.
Oh, of course. You're sorry.
Welcome to the podcast.
Right. I'm with a dream expert, and I just drop that bomb and walk away.
I'm like, really?
Yes.
I do talk about dreams. Zach talks about hypnosis and trauma. And today I'm joined by Lindsay Kincaide, who talks about internal family systems.
Yes.
But right now is talking about a stress dream.
Yes.
Do you mind sharing?
Not at all.
She's also hypnosis certified.
Oh, yeah, we're going to get to that.
Yeah.
Good
IFS,
clarification.
hypnosis and dreams in one big...
No,
place.
not that I was going to remember to say that. So thank you, Zach. Okay, take it away. Stress dream it is.
Yeah, so it's been same dream over many, many, many years, and it's being back in high school, which was a really bad time, I think, for a lot of us. And I had some specifically unique traumatic things happen, but it's always being back in school. And usually it's going into a classroom and like there's a test or an exam or something that was due, and I don't know where I am, I don't know where to go, I don't know what I'm doing, everybody else does, the teacher's like glaring at me like, where is this thing, why isn't this done? And then usually the dream just kind of pans out and it's like a freeze response.
Man, I have so many thoughts about that one because it's such a common dream, especially with anxiety, but I actually wonder, this might be a perfect segue into, could you pick that dream apart using an IFS model, internal family systems?
That's pretty
Because there's definitely like, the teacher is there, the other classmates are there, the school building represents an environment, you represent a character. And so, I mean, I have my thoughts and I'll share them in a moment, but would you mind, maybe that's a great way to introduce the audience to what internal family systems is.
What a great idea, thanks.
Yeah?
I also had a mentor once tell me that it can be helpful with dreams to try to put yourself in the role of every character in the dream.
Very true.
Right,
Very true.
and that would be helpful from an IFS perspective, because really with IFS we want to think about the fact that we are a bunch of things, a bunch of things. We are like the villain in our own story, we're the victim, right? We're the hero, we're all those different archetypes. In IFS language, right, we have the exiles, which are the parts of us that are in fear and shame and trauma. We have our protector parts, whether they're very proactive or whether they're very reactive. We call those firefighter parts. So I think probably the me in the dream who's frozen and unprepared and not knowing what to do is sort of that, maybe that powerless exile. The teacher is that maybe that critical, judgmental, inner critic protector part. I'm trying to think who, the other students are always just, they're not mean, they're the people who know what's going on and I'm different. So maybe they're idealistic versions of me who are maybe in control and know what's going on at all times.
I mean, she's kind of crushing this right now. Really. I'm not a dream expert, but internal family systems, this is why I wanted to use this, because internal family systems is such a great platform to start dream interpretation from, because it so intuitively understands the archetypes already.
Yes, I've not met someone who I've shared this with who didn't sort of intuitively grasp the concept of parts, which is another reason why I like it. You don't have to convince someone, you just sort of explain that we are all these things and people are like, yeah, I can relate to that. I've felt that way my whole life.
Absolutely. Well, so then I would agree with you. Like, if you were going to ask me what that dream meant if I had it, Well, high school is a time in our life when we really find our identity. We're sorting ourselves into cliques and niches, right?
Yeah.
You got the skater kids and the theater kids, and you got the sports athletes.
Yep.
And so everyone finds kind of their identity, right? Just kind of discovering who they are. And so here you are in an environment in the dream where you're kind of unsure of your identity. You're sort of figuring out, like, what is my role here?
Right.
There's also the judgmental teacher. There's also the other people who you're comparing yourself to that's creating the anxiety as well.
Right.
So there's
That makes so much sense.
almost 3 sources of anxiety kind of coming together in that dream that I would venture mirror the anxiety that you're going through in your waking life.
Wow. Boom.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't think about the identity piece. I'm so glad you
High
brought
schoolers.
that up.
Anything to add, Zach?
No.
Putting you on spot.
Feel free to share.
The thought that I was just expanding on, identity is, okay, I love dreams too, because it's like that dream means so much depending on what stage you're in, and it could mean so many different things.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like not quite moving on, but from the perspective of the different points in your life, can you see, like, I have the same feeling even though the content is totally different. And including for the reoccurring dream that happens to me this time of year,
Right.
it's a specific feeling.
Yeah.
That specific feeling is actually also a part of me.
Yeah.
That specific feeling of being out of control.
Yeah. Powerless.
I want to help people. I end up helping people, but I die for it.
Wow.
It's like,
yeah.
that's not just this time of year for me.
Right. No.
That's the stage of life for me.
Okay.
That's the last stage of life for me. I imagine until I set appropriate boundaries in my life, it's going to be a stage of life in the future.
It will continue. Oh,
Yeah.
boundaries.
So how do you see that with that dream for you?
Okay. Let's
I know.
see. I do wonder a little bit about powerlessness, as in this country, in this time of being a queer person. I was closeted, so at the high school there's that identity piece there. Being Pride Month, a lot of things coming up. I think some aspects of wanting to help people and feeling, including people in my own life, and not knowing how to do that, not feeling like I have options.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Interesting.
I always tell people when it comes to, like, interpreting dreams, there's the symbols, which can be difficult and complicated to break down, but the emotions are always one-to-one. It's like, if you feel sad in a dream, it's telling you about sadness. If you feel happy in a dream, it's telling you about happiness. If you feel uncertain or maybe not able to help in the capacity that you'd like to help, well, that's what you feel in your waking life. And so I always start with the emotions first. The symbols sort of fall into place.
Right.
So anyways, we could make it a whole hour about dream interpretation, but I do think it's a great launching point into, if somebody comes to this podcast having no understanding of internal family systems, and you just broke down that dream wonderfully without having any background in dream interpretation because of your
Because of IFS,
information in internal family systems, what's the elevator pitch for internal family systems? What is it? How does it work?
The elevator pitch. So I think just saying what I said earlier about understanding that we are a bunch of things all at once. Like, we're not a monolithic singular identity, right? So whether you follow IFS's very simple breakdown of, we have parts of ourselves that are exiles, protector parts that are managers, and protector parts that are firefighters, that's great. But you don't have to necessarily use that language. You could really start with a part of me. I mean, as simple as a part of me wants to go to the gym and a part of me wants to lay on this couch and keep scrolling.
Sure.
Right? A part of me wants to eat this cheesecake and a part of me does want to eat the broccoli. Right? We can, so just being able to start with those simple dichotomies within ourselves, And then ideally, being able to sit with a lot of calmness, compassion, and curiosity with those parts of ourselves. One of the things I like about IFS is they talk about self-energy. So self-energy is the capacity to be calm, curious, and compassionate with ourselves and with other people. And you can think of it as the best version of yourself. If you are more spiritually bent, it can be sort of your higher self. It can have a spiritual lens to it. It could be the God self. It could be like the God inside, but it doesn't have to be. And that's another thing I like about it. Whether you're spiritual or not, we can strive to be this calm, curious, and compassionate person. Then we can understand what's going on with ourselves, and we can navigate that with getting less reactive, less fight, flight, or freeze in our lives.
Okay. Calm, curious, and compassionate. That sounded rehearsed. Is that?
Well, there's
that were 3 C's.
I call them the 3 C's.
Okay,
but
that sounded important. I picked up on that. I was like, okay, that's a thing.
IFS has 8, but I always tell my
8 Cs?
clients I can't remember the 8.
I can't
I think
remember
courageous, courageous, creative. There's a bunch of them, but I can't remember them. So I just say to my clients, try to just remember these 3: calm, curious, and compassionate. And I feel like the other 5 flow out of that.
I like that. Sort of foundational 3.
Those are the foundational 3.
Okay.
You'll get to courageous and creative and all the other ones that are apparently out there.
Okay, wait. So on this topic, I think it's sort of foundational 3. How many, because Jungian psychoanalysis, there's so many archetypes. Like, you kind of named some key ones. Are there a finite number of archetypes in the IFS system? Do you call them archetypes?
They don't refer to them as archetypes. They do refer them as groups of parts. And there is 3. So they do kind of have this finite description.
3 C's, 3 parts. Okay.
Right.
Man, I'm on board.
All right. 3 things.
I can count to 3.
KISS. Keep it super simple.
That's another 3. Keep it, okay.
But yes.
Favorite episode. Okay.
Exiles, managers, and firefighters. If you like that, run with it.
I do like that.
Exiles are going to be the parts of ourselves that our protector parts try to keep suppressed.
Okay. Keep suppressed. Okay, that's exiles.
And those can be memories, right? Traumatic memories. Parts can contain memories. They might have feelings. A lot of the things we try to repress are fear and shame-based feelings and memories.
Okay.
Managers will try to keep those out of the way with certain proactive strategies like perfectionism, working, staying busy, staying productive, always being successful, right? Codependency. And then we have the reactive firefighters.
Well, it's like managing whatever my society is, or whatever my
expectations are.
Jungian psychoanalysis, it's always about the group, and so we put stuff in our shadow.
Exiles are in shadow
in order to make it so that I can be a part of that system.
Right. It's so we can tolerate ourselves and how we exist with other people, right? So I may have this secret that I keep in exile. It's a thing I'm ashamed of. Nobody else may know it, but I still have to protect myself from it. Yeah. So the managers are trying to protect myself from it and protect other people from it.
Got it. Okay, so that leaves us with firefighters.
It does.
What is that?
They're the reactive protector parts. So say the managers are having a hard time keeping everything exiled.
Sometimes,
right? Yeah. Shame comes up. Fear comes up. Reactive firefighter parts swoop in. And I say it's exactly like a firefighter, right? They come in, they may have to bust out all your windows. Your whole house may be covered in water. They pack up and leave. They did their job. They don't care with what's left behind.
But everybody's alive.
Everybody's alive. Yeah. Well, trying to, right?
Hopefully.
Because addiction is a main firefighter part. It could be drugs or substances or behaviors. They're trying to numb.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so this is disaster mode. If the manager can't manage it, then the firefighter comes and just kind of drowns it.
Yep.
So they don't keep everybody alive. They're actually specifically trying to murder the exile.
Well, suicide is a firefighter part.
Suicide's a firefighter.
It's the ultimate firefighter part, right? If we cannot contain this, I have a way out, a permanent way out.
Whoa.
Yeah. So no, it may not always mean survival in that sense, but maybe emotional survival in a very desperate sense.
Yeah, I mean, every situation where somebody's been in my office that's been suicidal in some way, or trying to commit suicide, it is absolutely protective.
Yeah.
It's I can't handle a version of reality that doesn't comply with what I need to be in order to function here.
There's no out, no survival
never
here
thought
in
about
this
that way.
reality seems feasible
There's no
anymore.
other option.
Yep.
Wow, I never thought about it from that perspective of it being a firefighter. But it absolutely is.
Yeah. So we can say, we try to say, and the founder of IFS says there's no bad parts, right? Even a suicidal part, right? They're all trying to be protective, and they're trying to be helpful in some way. We can say that maybe their modalities are outdated. Maybe they don't really serve the person anymore. And that's why we need calm, curious, and compassionate energy towards them, because nobody changes in judgment.
Okay. Well, I mean, the firefighter does sound bad, though. How do you, what's a good firefighter?
Yeah. Well,
Like,
maybe it
I haven't
seems
heard anything.
paradoxical that something that might want to try to destroy the body could be good. But when we think about what their intentions are, right, to numb pain with drugs.
Sounds like my bad uncle. He's got good intentions, though.
Yes.
I still don't want him at Thanksgiving. I don't
So
actually have a bad uncle. That's not a shout out to anybody. I'm not going to get canceled.
Sorry to Jesse's uncle, right?
Sorry. But no, I mean, kind of the analogy there. So
Yeah.
it's like, does Uncle Firefighter need to go to rehab? Like, what do we, that's
Firefighters
therapy?
may need boundaries. There's nothing wrong with boundaries, right? But a lot of us are afraid of boundaries, aren't we? Right? Because we feel guilty or ashamed if we have boundaries, because that's in our shadow, that's in our exiles, right? So we don't have boundaries, and we need them with ourselves too. And that's what I work with my clients in creating is, yes, let's love this firefighter, but we also need to have boundaries with them, right? I will hear you, I'll listen to you, but I can't do what you want me to do right now.
I can give you a specific example because
Sure.
when you're talking about that, like 15 of my personal that situations come up.
I can relate.
But right. But what do you say to somebody when they're just sitting here? You just explained all of that.
Yeah.
You just talked about firefighters, and then they're just like, yeah, but this part of me, or this part of me that's causing me to do this behavior is bad.
Oh, a lot of us hate our parts.
Yeah,
it's
they
a
just
part of
hate it.
self-hatred. Yeah.
And you're like, no, it's like let's be compassionate with it. And they're just like, how do you be compassionate with a part of me that did this?
So here's the first thing I explain to them. It's like, so if we have self, which is this idealistic way of being, calm, curious, and compassionate, we know we have that capacity. We just don't have it all the time.
Okay.
And we have this part that is causing problems for the whole person as a system. When that person is in that moment telling me, I hate this part, I can't stand them, I want this to go away, that's not self-talking, that's another part.
So
That
we're
is
switching it from, okay, we could talk about that part, but first let's talk about this part.
Yeah, I want to get curious with who's talking to me right now, the part who hates this other part. These parts in IFS language are called polarized parts, meaning they have different intentions to help the person. So classic example, a part that wants rest or procrastination can be at odds with the perfectionistic workaholic.
Sure.
The perfectionistic workaholic says, you're lazy, you're a bum, I can't stand you, we'd be better off if you, procrastinator, were never here.
Right.
And they're not listening to the procrastinator part. They want nothing to do with having curiosity about why that part thinks that sometimes the person needs to procrastinate.
Right.
But until we have that dialogue between two parts, great way to use the open chair modality, right, when they switch chairs, to talk to those parts. That's how we can kind of come to an understanding of each other. It's like if two people were in family therapy and had a conflict, they need to kind of understand where they're coming from. So that's why it's an internal family system, not an external one.
So
There it is.
So I get this a lot. And then the client goes, no, but this is bad behavior. I understand what you're saying.
Can we
They don't
separate the
understand.
behavior from the part?
No. I hate this part of it.
Yeah, no, okay. That's totally absolutely. I said, all right, we got to go talk to the part who's speaking right now. Tell me about what you're afraid of.
So then it's a third one. And I think this is why so many people get confused. Sorry, thanks. This is why so many people get confused, because it's like, I hate this part.
Yep.
Okay, well, let's talk to that part.
Wait, who's that one?
And then this, it's like, okay, well, yes, I cognitively understand. And then another part jumps in and is like, yeah, but we agree, this part needs to go.
Another part, you're right. So I have an idea that can help with that, and I've integrated them into my practice. Two things. We got to visualize this.
Man, I love her keeping it 3 and under. She said 2 things. Yeah.
And actually, now it is 3.
Okay.
You can have them draw
I'm
the
sweating
parts.
a little bit, but I think I'll make it.
No 5. We're not getting up above 3.
Okay.
Have them draw the map of the parts. Have little figures, and create objects. Like I have objects in my office that can represent parts. My favorite is use tarot or oracle cards and find images for the parts, and we lay them out on the table.
They're archetypal.
They are archetypal. They're beautiful archetypes. And oracle cards can just be representatives of images outside of the tarot landscape. So you don't even have to use tarot imagery. There's lots of other options out there. But seeing it in front of you like a map, and then this part, we can label them, we can name them, and then this part feels this way towards this part, and now this part interjects and wants this part to know this and this part to know that. And yeah, it can get a bit complicated because we are complicated. So having cards, having something to visualize it is an aid.
I actually have my archetype, my Carolyn Miss archetype cards here.
Yeah, those are great. Yep.
So like the shapeshifter.
Mm-hmm. They might literally name the part for you, which could be helpful, right?
Yeah, the saboteur.
Yep.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. Yeah.
It's at the top.
The saboteur is a firefighter part.
So there can be different sort of expressions of the part under the category of exile, manager, firefighter.
Infinite possibilities under those 3 categories.
Okay, but we kind of condense them down into those 3.
I'm sure that was done to try to simplify things.
Well, I mean, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Am I understanding then, like, as you describe this, am I understanding correctly that you're kind of coming at it with the premise that each part has a reasonable desire that needs to be satisfied, but some kind of compromise needs to be made between these 3 parts to make that compromise happen?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. There's
Okay,
always
so that's kind of the framework.
like a meaning and a desire and a goal behind the behavior. And when things are getting really complicated and messy between them, that can often be indicative of the amount of trauma somebody's gone through. Because how we survive trauma is going to create different parts, right? So whether,
that makes sense.
Yeah. So I mean, an addiction could come out of trauma, perfectionism, workaholism, codependency, self-hatred, self-loathing, low self-esteem, all these different things.
So could you maybe give me like an example? I mean, we'll make it up, right? And I have some ideas in my own head about clients that I've worked with, but I see oftentimes the client who comes in who feels lazy. Right? They're like, I want to do this thing. I'm thinking about just even a friend of mine who really wants to be successful, right? But they struggle with that motivation to be patiently persistent about that thing that they want to achieve.
Steadily work towards it.
They want to post consistently on social media. They want to get out there and advertise their business. They want to make connections and networks. But every morning they wake up and they have that like hesitation, lack of motivation to do all of those steps necessary to achieve long-term success.
How do you see those 3?
Yeah, well, I think it's so relatable.
Yeah, it's a great example.
How do you see that playing out if you were going to describe that from an IFS, internal family systems model?
Perspective.
What are the 3 pieces that make that something that we all struggle with?
I'll start with maybe the metaphors and the parts, and then we do want to take a little bit of a step back and look at some neurobiology that could be coming at play.
Okay.
Because one thing we do want to remember is that these parts are metaphors. They're metaphors for very complicated neurobiological processes, and we want to honor that sometimes we have to have interventions on another level with that. So I'll be sure
like medication?
Like medication,
okay,
yes.
Okay.
Or so physiology, right? Like thyroid, like diabetes, like low blood sugar, like chronic fatigue syndrome, like all sorts of complicated things.
So maybe for the sake of the argument, let's say neurotypical person, it's not an ADHD thing, their thyroid's fine.
Yep.
Let's say that their diet is adequate, they exercise 3 times a week, and they're getting enough sleep. So let's say it's purely psychological, just for the sake of
simplicity.
Expose, right?
Yep. Okay.
How would you break it down?
It's not. It's not just for...
It
never is just this, but what we're talking about is the theoretical side of things.
Yeah.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And they work together, right? Like therapists will always say, like, let's make sure that you have a good psychiatrist, let's look in good nutrition and all of these kinds of things, and let's do IFS. It's really compatible with all of those things. So from a simplistic standpoint, we could probably start with possibly we may have a part that has some expectations of what this person needs to do to be successful. They may not always be, those may not be coming from a place of self-energy. It could be coming from, I need to be a certain way to be okay, right? That could be some perfectionism, right? We would probably want to get curious with that person is what's motivating them to maybe want
to be successful.
1 million followers on YouTube or something like that.
Sure.
But now clearly we've got this low energy procrastinator part, right?
What would that part be? The one who wants 1 million followers on YouTube?
Could be a manager.
Yeah.
Would want to get curious about that with that person.
Okay.
So
it's more the management. I'm kind of
like what do you...
Manager seems oppressive.
It could be.
Yeah.
Yeah. They can be critical, pretty demanding, not a lot of leeway, but kind of black and white, like this is successful and this isn't.
Okay.
Maybe not thinking in the gray space
Okay.
so much. And the procrastinator parts, I'm hesitant to kind of put them into a specific category at the moment until we kind of understand what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
A lot of them, if we're speaking outside of ADHD, we probably are looking at fear of failure.
I would say that's a big part of the person I'm thinking of.
Yeah, what they're going through, what's holding them back, right? Because once you put yourself out there, there's no longer that ability to say, well, I didn't try, so maybe I could have done it. But if you put yourself out there and you're not getting there, then shame comes up. So this person may have this big well of shame underneath that part, which could be the exiles in question. Maybe things from their past that created that fear for them and would be worth understanding that better so that then we can go to that procrastinator part and help them to process their fear. Because there's usually a fear at the end of the day.
I mean, that kind of makes sense, like fear sort of holding them back. Is the firefighter showing up yet?
The firefighter could be the procrastinator part in this scenario.
Oh, okay.
Trying to shut down certain behaviors with almost like a depressive state, right? And low energy and low motivation to create a certain type of behavior that part thinks is protecting them from ever feeling failure or rejection.
Okay.
There's a lot of rejection on social media.
Oh, so it's not always that the manager and the firefighter get along. Sometimes the firefighter
They
is
can often be at
firefighting
odds.
for the exile. Because in the first scenario, the firefighter was fighting the fire and drowning the exile.
Because the manager couldn't hold it together, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But in this scenario, the firefighter is fighting the manager and drowning the manager because I want to procrastinate and I don't want to have the fear of being rejected.
That's right.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So there's not like a natural pattern of getting along.
There is not.
Mommy doesn't always take daddy's side.
That's right.
Sometimes mommy takes the side of the children and then, daddy's in
The
trouble.
one thing that seems to be consistent is that managers and firefighters are trying to keep exiles in exile, but they too can often be at odds with how one does that.
Yeah. Child abuse. No, not as an answer to your question.
no.
It's just like, I can see those two always abusing the exiled child.
Oh, introjects, internalized objects from object relations theories. Parts can become the internalized abuser, mom, dad, or other abusers. Absolutely, and they can continue to perpetuate that abuse against the self.
This might at first sound a little bit kind of coming off of that topic, but one of the things that you said, I'll bring it back. One of the things that you said was something about motivation and how important it is to understand what the motivation of these parts is. Yeah. So I think it's
that's why curious is one of the 3 C's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we don't know what the motivation of that part is, there's no way to categorize what its function is.
It can be, yes, I can't imagine we really could without understanding it better.
So I think that, at least for my practice, I don't know, and I tell clients this, it might be the case, but I've never seen a situation where a motivation wasn't positive.
Yeah, goal-oriented, in some way.
And when we really understand what somebody's or a part's motivation is, it's that it wants to get something. It's not that it wants to not have something, which is kind of one of the tenets for hypnotherapy.
Very true.
Is this part is its real motivation is not to. I'm thinking about some of my old childhood traumas, and it's like it's not that I don't want that thing to happen again. I want to feel.
It's not to avoid; it's to create.
Yeah.
So let me create relief. And in the process, I get to avoid fear.
Exactly. And so like if I do create this thing, then I don't have to.
I don't have to deal with that. Yeah.
How do you deal with that with clients, especially from the context that you were just talking about? Because I think that it's maybe going back to a previous conversation that we were having on here, especially as far as AI goes, there's this like feedback loop that technology and also therapists can get into, where it's a lot of that like, well, if that hurts, then don't do it. And we never get to the motivation.
Right. It's usually not that simple.
It's really not. It's like, okay, well, I don't like how this person is talking to me. Cut him out. I don't like how I don't like my job. Well, then quit.
Yeah, a lot of other factors to take into account there, and in helping parts shift, and even helping us to get unblended from parts, which is the ability to get into self energy, is not simple and easy for a lot of people, particularly when you're dealing with PTSD, BPD, dissociative identity disorder. It's not simple. It's valuable, but it can take a while to develop those skills.
Also, can you explain for anybody watching or listening to this, what do you mean there by blended? Because I think that's really important.
Yeah, this is a really important tenet. So when we are not in self-energy, if we aren't feeling calm, curious, and compassionate about ourselves, somebody else, or a topic, we can kind of assume that we are blended with another part, right? Which consumed by that part and its thought processes and its reactions and feelings.
I'm like over-identifying as this part rather than these parts.
I think of self-energy as like expansiveness, right? I've got a lot of space to be calm, curious, and compassionate. I can see all of these parts. When I'm blended, it's more tunnel vision.
I'm really a hard worker.
You don't say.
Sounds like some tunnel vision.
Right. And so like, what do you say to somebody when it's just like, well, I've been like this since I was forever. I've been like this since I was a kid. This is who I am.
It's a really important part of you who's kept you safe for a really, really long time.
But like since 3?
Maybe since infancy.
Right. I don't think that a lot of people understand how important it is to, for lack of better words, sit in that space.
Yeah.
Like, I've always been extra, even when I was a baby. I've always been extra.
Who's to say even in the fetus, right? We don't know.
And the over-identification with that has caused me so many problems as an adult. I'll work harder than anybody. I'll do whatever you do, but like
you bring up another
times.
really important part of IFS, which is power differential in an internal system. Some parts have consistently more power than other parts do. So these over-identified, overpowered parts that sort of run the show most of the time have a lot more power than other ones that the person may want to develop. So being able to not only map out their parts, but who has the power in the system, and is that power being equally or fairly or appropriately distributed for that person's well-being?
So how do you integrate that with like personality? Like some people who are just introverted or extroverted or more creative or more analytical? Because I mean, I could see some people thinking like, oh, we should all kind of be this equal sort of plane, but we're all different, right? Like,
absolutely.
I probably will, I will naturally be less creative, at least in the visual space, than my wife, who's a dance choreographer.
Fair enough.
Right? Like that's just not, my brain doesn't work that way, or at least that's what I've told myself. So
that's a really good point.
How do you blend those?
We don't want to be saying that we all have to, again, like be all these things all at once in this perfect format, because we don't need any more perfectionistic thinking, right? So
I've been trapped again.
I know, right?
I thought I had it.
I like the idea of looking at power.
I'm going to be a perfect IFS. Okay?
Yes, do it perfectly.
I got a metaphor for that here that I'll share with you in a minute. I gotta get something.
Maybe it would be helpful for us to think about that power distribution from a reactivity or protective lens, right? So we don't need our extrovert and our introvert parts necessarily to be equal, but maybe our hardworking part and our self-care parts need to have their power be more equal.
Okay, so like maybe I'm a very active person. I'm not an indoorsy person. I'm an outdoorsy person.
Yeah.
But there's outdoor things that I do for others in order to be successful, and then there's outdoor things that I do for myself to recharge. I don't need to become like an indoor person.
Nope.
But I do need there to be a balance between my manager outdoor and my exile outdoor.
That's an interesting way of putting it. Because I think that maybe we might be risking pathologizing all of our parts, in this sense that being an outdoorsy kind of person as a character trait may not be a manager or a firefighter.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement. I may just be describing it poorly. So
that's okay.
There may be times where, maybe I work as like somebody who keeps the trails clean on a public park, right? That's my job, and I want to be the best at that.
Fair enough.
Right? But then I also need to have times where I'm just enjoying the outdoors for
Absolutely,
myself.
just walking along the trails and recharging.
Yeah, I'm never going to be a desk office worker. That's just not really who I am.
Nope, we don't want to try to make you something that you're not.
But the balance of these three pieces.
And if it isn't a problem, we're probably not going to start there. We're probably going to start with the parts that are causing that person problems. And as they work through their system, maybe some things will continue to come up where like, that wasn't a problem a few years ago, but now that I've worked with all these other parts, now this is kind of the only problem I have.
Okay.
We can take a look at that.
All right, Zach, you had something you want to share. I'll hold this while you do that.
So I had this client who is a therapist and IFS trained. And wanted to come to get a different perspective about, Jungian stuff and hypnotherapy stuff. And so it was this constant, at the very beginning, it was almost a constant, fight with her educating me about IFS and how actually Jungian psychoanalysis is wrong and not as accurate as IFS. So what I did is I spend way too much money proving points to clients. So this is more like a blind reaction kind of moment.
So Lindsay doesn't know this is coming.
No.
Okay.
I'm waiting for it.
So I got this booklet, and she's actually sitting right where you're sitting, and I'm sitting across and I pull this. It's face down, and I pull this out, and I go, all right, this is what we're going to do.
The flip chart.
Make sure they can see it.
Yes, I've heard of this.
I literally bought this in a packet so that we could go through it, and then I started the session. It's on my lap, and I started the session. It's got like things that you say like on the back of them.
It has
too.
like talking points.
and so I just started like reading it to her, and kind of the point. And so we're just sitting here. The self, with a capital S, is the seed of consciousness, the essential to you. And she's just looking at this.
If you can't see that, it's got like the therapy cheat sheets on the back as the client looks at the...
It is a pretty cool tool if you want to learn more about IFS. I've seen them online.
Absolutely. I think it's absolutely great. I was using it so facetiously to prove a point about this idea of the power differential in the parts. Is that she's sitting here with this part that served her so much. If I know enough...
Yeah.
I can be at peace.
Right.
If I these beliefs about her, I can hold it now. So
I'm fine.
If I know enough, if I'm educated enough,
in case you're safe.
I'm safe.
I'm safe. Yep.
And even you, the therapist,
will not take the safety away from me. No, thank you. Yep.
And so we played.
Mm-hmm. Even though another part of you came here, paid money, and asked for that perspective, this other part said, "Hell no."
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
And so I think the really cool, when you're talking about like power differentials, the really cool thing is that it's like, this really has given me a sense of power in a life where I feel like I've been consistently proven that I don't have power.
Mm-hmm.
And
we don't let go of, these parts won't let go of their roles sometimes easily.
She was so upset. but not at me.
No.
It was so great. I had enough rapport to do this.
Right.
I had plenty of rapport.
This was in a loving confrontation.
Yes.
Like this kind of had to happen for her to go to the next step.
And that's how I pitched it. I was just like, well, I'm not so educated, so let's go through this. She was just, okay. She ended up going, I get what you're trying to say. It wasn't what I was trying to say. I was trying to keep it broad and very hypnotic in order to make it so that she would recognize this part. But because she was so educated about parts, it was difficult for her to see this blended nature that she had with her internal therapist, which is probably why she went to grad school in the first place, to be a therapist, so she could learn about stuff that she could apply to herself.
Yeah.
And
the reason why a lot of us go to become counselors, right? Let's heal thyself, right?
But I think my question is like, what do you... A lot of therapists watch this. And if you were to give some advice to them when you have this very tightly blended part, that's good. That really does create a sense of power, a sense of autonomy.
So you got to validate that for that part. I see how you are protecting this person and giving them power and autonomy. And I love the concept of rolling with resistance, right? So if a part's like resistant to maybe making a shift that other parts are requesting of it, or resistant to maybe seeing a certain way, we got to roll with that, right? Always just trying to fight with them isn't really going to get us anywhere. That's not the calm, curious, and compassionate self of the therapist. That could be a part of them showing up at odds with the client's part.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I want to help you. Please just see this, right? And that could be coming from the therapist.
I think most of the time it is when you get stuck in counseling that blended part rather than counseling that whole person.
And we see that show up in all sorts of different conditions, like with people with borderline personality and that kind of chronic suicidality. Like there's so many parts involved in the BPD diagnosis. And so understanding parts work, when we work with folks with BPD and complex PTSD, I find to be really, really important. Yeah.
So have you found some ways to integrate your internal family systems model with hypnotherapy? Because you're also trained in doing hypnosis. What does that look like uniquely for you?
I really love incorporating IFS into hypnotherapy. It's kind of the main form of hypnotherapy I do, other than mindfulness-based stress reduction. So I'll bring the person into their hypnotic state with inductions. And my classic imagery is I usually have them, once we've come down the stairs into that full state of hypnosis, we're in a big hallway, and they walk down the hallway and it's all lined with doors. And I just say, let your subconscious mind take you to a door. And then on the other side of the door, you're going to meet a part of yourself. You don't know who it is.
Okay.
And I have them just, who's in front of you? And it has never failed me, never failed the client to meet someone who they needed to talk to, whether it was an exile, firefighter, or a manager, or
So you just kind of trust the mind to guide.
Yep. It's never failed us to just trust that process.
Do you, I mean, I guess it would probably be different for each client, but like when you meet them, what happens next? What do you do with that?
Right.
Like, I'm looking at you.
Right. Well, I don't leave them there. Like, thankfully, they have me to guide them.
Thank you.
Right. So tell me about who you're seeing, and maybe we go a little bit of how old are they, and you know, maybe looking at some gender expression stuff, or where are they, and usually the environment is very, very important, and the first step is the relationship, right? So I have the client sort of embody self when they go in to meet the part.
Yeah.
You're the calm, curious, and compassionate adult self who is going to meet this part, and we want to introduce them so that they can have a relationship with each other. So maybe they sit with the part and just listen. Sometimes the part, usually if they're children, want hugs, or they want to sit on their lap, or they just want to be comforted by them.
Yeah.
So we do focus a lot on building the relationship between self and whatever part is present in the room.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's like, first, we have to be curious
Yeah.
we have to like build the relationship first. Like, where does this part of you live? What are they like? What do they look like? How old are they?
How are they feeling?
Before we can do anything with it, we have to know who this part is.
And what they need, right? What's burdening them? Like, what are they feeling? A very common scenario is we will have an inner child part in a space from the past where trauma happened, often a bedroom, a lot of sadness. And as that relationship builds and the trust is here now, I will say, does that little child want to leave? And they always say yes. And then I have them, and this is something I usually build with the client beforehand, is we have a safe, protective space, peaceful space. And self takes that inner child out of that trauma and takes them to the safe space. Usually it's a beautiful place outdoors. It's often a beach. And I'll often invite like a pet or someone, and it's often a family pet that they had at the time. It's usually a dog. And so now the inner child is reunited with their dog, with self, usually on the beach or some sort of lake.
Oh my God, I'm gonna cry.
Oh yeah, we're all crying.
Breathe, Zach, breathe.
Yep. And
damn.
yeah, and the tears and the catharsis is happening. And we talk to the inner child that, like, we're not just going to leave you here. We will come back and visit, and we do. And usually we wrap up at that point once they're safe and in a lighter mood, a lighter emotional space. Then we can bring the person back out of hypnosis and process what they just experienced.
That's great. That's great. Okay, you hold it together. Hold it together.
That you see, just that visualization, like thinking about that reunion, and remembering that many of us who had abuse as children were not rescued from those scenarios. So to have self, to have the adult remove you from that environment is
modeled by the self.
Transformative. Yeah.
Okay.
Nobody else needs to save me. I'm saving me.
That's empowering.
But it meets the inner child with the protective adult they never had, and that's important.
Okay, one last question before we kind of wrap up, because I know we're had a good time. Thanks, Lindsay.
You're welcome. Thank you.
What do you think, just from your experience, having done this many times, what do you think is one of the most common or biggest mistakes that people make with their internal system? Do you see one kind of pattern emerging pretty frequently that maybe people could be aware of, like
Absolutely.
whether as a therapist or as a client?
Absolutely. It really is judgment.
Judgment.
Like the amount of massive transformation people have when they start to shift into calm, curious compassion with themselves cannot be understated. I cannot understate that enough. The power to transform PTSD, to transform lifelong shame, to change toxic patterns. When people hate themselves and are committed to that narrative, their healing is significantly delayed. Self-compassion is the answer.
Got it.
Yeah.
So judgment is the mistake.
Judgment is the mistake. Self is the anecdote.
That was going to be my follow-up question.
Yeah.
Is like, well, judgment, like, I mean, we can't just accept everything.
No.
You know, that would be too far into the other direction.
Sure.
So then maybe the
we're
positive sort of hypnotic suggestion, right? What direction are we moving towards is self-compassion.
Self-compassion.
The biggest mistake people make is judgment. The answer, the antidote, like you said, self-compassion.
And
That's
so
beautiful.
and so many times we'll see that what people are judging are not anything they deserve to be judged about.
Yeah.
It isn't things like, oh, well, we better not judge that part, or bad things will happen. It's almost always we have to liberate this part from that judgment because they didn't deserve to be judged to begin with. They were just kids surviving, or a person surviving in the best way they could.
Yeah, for sure. Wow. Lindsay, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Is
Appreciate
there,
it.
if people want to follow up more with you or send you an email with like a follow-up question, is
Oh,
there a good
yeah.
place to catch you at?
Sure. So I have a website, lindsaykincaide.com, which should be live in just a couple of days. Maybe by the time this is out, it will
sure.
be live.
Yeah, I'm sure.
lindsaykincaide.com is probably the easiest. It's my phone number and a contact form if anyone wants to reach out to me, chat.
Beautiful.
Love to hear from y'all.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And if you're looking to get the information about hypnotherapy and how to integrate that into your practice, of course, Zach and I at traumafocusedhypnotherapy.com. And we'll see you in the next episode. Until then, bye.
Bye.
Thanks for your time.